What's going on, Guardians? And Destiny patch 2.0 has been released, so it is almost unofficially year 2 of Destiny. And I want to look back and think of the good old times and the terrible times of Destiny over this past, long, brutal year. So here are some things that year 1 Destiny players are definitely going to remember. Even if you did hop on like halfway through it doesn't matter. You probably still remember half of these things. So let's get started. Anyone remember the loot cave, whether it was version 1.0, 2.0, or the awful 3.0? Yeah, if you weren't around that time, this was just a cave where everyone would sit down and just watch a cave. They would just sit there and have one person out of 10 people shoot the enemies that came out and just get engrams. They'd engram farm. Yes, if you didn't do it, you don't understand how important engrams were to us, because legendaries were so rare, and legendary engram, when it dropped, you'd hear someone scream, and you'd say, that guy got a legendary, and you'd really piss because you'd think that you need to shoot them to get the legendary engram, when in fact, it doesn't really matter. So, no one really knew how to play the game at the time. The loot cave leads into farming in general, farming for spin metal, farming for iron, farming for spirit bloom, farming for all that stuff that we take for granted now, because the vendors sell them. Well, in a time long ago, you'd have to go out and actually get them. Back when Guardians were made of Ascendant materials. Yes, and remember those? Ascendant shards, Ascendant energy, those things were awful. You'd actually have to do the weekly strike tap to get these things, and sometimes the Nightfall would give you like 9 of them. Also going off all the engrams, remember when the Cryptarch was a dick? We all remember this guy. Memes everywhere, he was just the worst kind of person. I didn't think he was a bad guy, but when I look at him, he did kind of piss me off. And if you're wondering why he was such a bad guy, it's because you give him a legendary engram and he'd give you back a rare. And when you got a legendary engram, you were ecstatic. So when he gave you a rare, you'd flip out on him. Go on the Reddit and you'd see people writing long, hateful messages to him. So when you completed the Nightfall back then, you'd get blue flames on your head like you do now. But not many people were high levels as they are now, so having blue flames on your head meant you were like a god in the tower. People would come up to you and point. They look at you like, oh, this guy's got flames on his head. How do you get that? No one knew. You just do Nightfall, which seemed like an impossible stun. And when I first did it, it took me a couple tries, and it was very stressful. This is poking fun at all the weapon balances. Remember when auto rifles were good? Yeah, they were extremely good in the beginning. You got the Shadow Price, Service Regime. Those things could not be beaten. And then, do you also remember when assault rifles were awful? This ushered in the era of hand cannons, and forever left a mark of a thorn dart in the back of my head. Yep, remember when Thorn was good? It's not as good now because 2.0 patch. But also, auto rifles are on their rise again, so thank you, patch 2.0. Moving on to bosses. Cheesing them in general. Any cheese. You can think of it, it happened. I'll give you a couple of famous ones. Pushing Aetheon off. This is by far the most famous one, in my opinion. People wanted the Vex Mythoclast. You'd go in on hard, you'd steal someone's checkpoint, you'd be the worst kind of person for your friends, you'd get the checkpoint, you'd sit there at about 12 AM trying to push them off because you only got like 1 Titan and 2 Warlocks, because everyone was a hunter back then, and you just sit there, like me because I was a hunter, and watch and pray that these Titans and Warlocks would push them off. He would hopefully give you Vex Mythoclast, and most of the time he wouldn't, but when he did, it's almost like getting a Gjallarhorn. Almost. Because the Vex was amazing back then, and they patched it. Also, remember back to the ancient times in Destiny, Week 2, Xur sold Gjallarhorn. No one really cared. You looked at it and said, when am I ever going to use a heavy slot? Honestly, I could be using something so much more effective. That day, ever since then, I've been kicking myself because I have video footage of me looking at Xur with it there. But I ended up getting it, and he also sold it again on August 14th, which is Gjallarhorn Day, so there you go. Another cheese would be Crota. The only one I knew how to do is the Xbox one, and that was where you would exit out of your Destiny game as soon as he started to kneel, and he would just stay there. And you'd sit there, and you'd wham him, and then boom. Going back a little bit further, I remember a time when you'd say, oh, what level are you? Like, oh, I'm 25. Like, that's really good. But no one knew how to get to 30, because no one did the Vault of Glass, because no one knew how to do the Vault of Glass. The Vault of Glass was a myth, it was a legend. People that completed it were looked upon as these great figures, And it was all around a great time because no one knew anything, and it was fun finding things out again. This is a new thing too. You guys remember DINKLEBOT? Yeah, he's not there anymore, but he'll be forever in my heart as that monotone guy. He would have the driest humor ever. I couldn't laugh with the guy. He was just too monotoned. I love Peter Dinklage as an actor, but as a little light, I can't take him. This was something I was kind of pissed off about. Iron Banner, when it first came out, people were excited about it. You'd show off, you'd be, hey, I'm level 30, not a lot of people are, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna destroy. But, lo and behold, someone, great idea, was like, hey, this thing's supposed to be scaled, you're supposed to be high levels, beat all, but I'm gonna go in as level 4 with the worst gun in the game and put up a good fight. And there's video footage of that, of a level 4 going into the Iron Banner and doing damage. That sparked an uproar, and Bungie changed it. So, if you were there for that, it was pretty funny. Another thing about Destiny that I look back upon and I say, wow, the vault space. That was annoying. It wasn't much of a problem the first couple of weeks, but as exotics started rolling in, it became an issue. They did fix it, and they're gonna fix it even more. In fact, it's already fixed again. So, you year 2 Destiny players, you're taking things for granted. Look back at these things and say, wow, those Guardians were tough. Also, you remember when Xur sold Sunbreakers 3 times in a row? It's like he hated the Warlocks and everyone was pissed off. One more thing I forgot to say. When you wanted to change gear and switch over characters so you could, I don't know, finish Vault of Glass or get the checkpoint, it took forever. You have to go to orbit, go to the tower, switch out your stuff, go to orbit, join in, realize, oh, I forgot my helmet. Go to the orbit, go to tower, get your helmet, come back. Loading times in between was like 5 minutes at a time. But now, you just go on your phone, click move to vault, switch it back and forth, no problem. So that's pretty much all I have to remember about year 1. I'm pretty sure I missed a couple of stuff, little tiny things in there. These aren't labeled as good or bad. You can tell which ones were bad and which ones were good. But if you got any more memories, please share them in the comments below. I love reading them. I love looking back and saying, wow, we've come a long way in Destiny. Now we got year 2 to look forward to. It's going to be much more organized Destiny. It was a bit of a mosh pit in the beginning. But hope you guys enjoyed. As I said, leave your memories down in the comments below. That's been it for me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later, Guardians.